Well, thanks for having us today. I'm Zoe Hillenmeyer. I am our Chief Marketing Officer here at Protect AI. We focus on cybersecurity for AI workloads. We were founded in 2022, and I think just that fact alone tells you how we look ahead of the market on this emerging and incredibly important topic. For context, that is before ChatGPT was live. We were already building the backbone of what would become and a category leading company for AI for cybersecurity. That comes from our background. Many of us are long-term AI veterans. That is a hard thing to find in the industry. But myself, I've been working in AI for over a decade. That's also true for the majority of our C-suite. Those who haven't been working in AI for over a decade have been working in cybersecurity for over a decade and are thought leaders in their own right. So together we make up a sort of a band of thought leaders looking at, what is the emerging threat vector that is introduced by AI technologies, and then how do we solve for those? We have been lucky to work with some amazing partners, including AWS, Azure, and Hugging Face, among many others, including Databricks and Elastic. We have focused on developing an enterprise-ready, scalable platform upon which we have three primary products that help customers no matter where they are in that AI deployment cycle. So at the front side of that is Guardian, and Guardian is our model scanner. We are incredibly proud to partner with Hugging Face. We scan the world's largest ML repo with best-in-class ML model scanners. These are specifically built to detect things like architectural backdoors, deserialization threats, et cetera, that allow a builder to build with confidence if they're bringing a model into their environment, that model has been scanned and will not introduce any kind of nefarious code into their enterprise environment. Let's assume you've now built a model, and that model you could have built, through Hugging Face, or you might be using a third-party resource. And let's assume that for now, because it's quite the trend of the moment, that is a generative AI application. And so you have a Gen AI application and you are trying to kind of get it ready to go to production. What do you do in the UAT and pen testing phase? Now, these Gen AI applications have a very different way of acting depending on how they are interacted with. That is very different than the old school version of building out an app. These models are stochastic by nature. They change, they're dynamic. The way that you interact with them will change the way that they interact back with you. So before you push any kind of Gen AI application to production, you need to effectively red team it and do some pen testing against it. So we built out a product, Recon, that solves for that issue. Which brings me to the third product, Layer, which is our runtime security solution for tomorrow's AI. It is for today and tomorrow's AI. It is for really any Gen AI application. Once it's in production, you need to be monitoring that in an ongoing way to detect any new threats that are coming in through the engagement with the model, right? So if you have a bad actor on the other end of an app, they can use that as a front door to your infrastructure and to your data. And so you want to be monitoring that on an ongoing basis for any kind of, again, nefarious behavior, suspicious behavior, and make sure that you stop it in its tracks if somebody is trying to use that application to access additional data within your environment. We really built Layer in a way that was designed for some of the largest scale, the most complex environments. So if you think you have a messy, wonky, weird architecture, or you think you've got scale that is beyond the scope of what most of these kind of more scrappy AI firewalls that are out there can handle, we're for you. Because we have this partnership with Hugging Face and we scan the entire hub, it also means we detect models that have issues much sooner than any other competitor. Even other competitors that scan don't meet the same latency that we do in detecting these threats. So if you're working with us, you know that if you are leveraging, third-party models out of open source, that they are secure. We run the world's largest AI and ML dedicated bug bounty program. And so, what that allows us to do is also scale our eyes and ears to the ground and find model file vulnerabilities and other vulnerability signals out of our community of expert ethical hackers. So, that's an amazing resource. We bring all that together. And in my opinion, there is no one that is even near where we're at positioned from a threat research leadership position. Usually what happens is you get these big kind of hot trends, and then the commercial impact and relevance of that, the viability of those trends into true technology that's adopted at commercial scale, has a lag, right? So I think if you just look at that kind of from a historical perspective and where we are right now, that big hype on generative was really, if you kind of go to last year, beginning of last year and the year prior, that was all the hype on generative. The reality is that a lot of those workloads are just now going to production. And so right now, of course, the hypiest thing is agentic. That's no surprise to anyone. And it's real. It comes from a real perspective. Like the technology and the science underneath the hood is evolving. It is a real thing. Our prediction is that we won't really see that turn into true commercial, complex enterprise workloads until the end of this year and into next year. The reality is the majority of production for major enterprises today is actually on predictive ML, which was the stuff that was kind of put into production from like 2015 to 2020. And we talk about it a lot internally, but it's almost a little bit of the iceberg. Everybody's talking about agentic, talking about generative, which are absolutely meaningful changes in the threat environment. But there's still about 80-90% of production ML is running on more traditional predictive ML. And that's why we have invested so heavily in Guardian, that model scanning capability, to make sure all those workloads, you're scanning that code in an ongoing way. Oftentimes when we're working with customers, we know more about their ML than the security team might. And that's because security hasn't been invited to the table historically on a lot of this ML and AI innovation. We want security at the table. We firmly believe there should be no enterprise adoption of AI without the security of AI. And it's why we built the company.